Writer-poet Johanna Skibsrud, whose debut novel, The Sentimentalist, won the prestigious Giller Prize, is here with her first collection of short fiction called This Will Be Difficult to Explain. Much like winning the Giller for a first-time novel can be delightful, but sometimes difficult to explain. It is my pleasure to welcome Johanna Skibsrud to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Hi.
I'm sure you've heard this 100 times. Congratulations on the Giller for your first effort. Hello.
Thank you.
Where was your mother when she heard?
Oh, I haven't talked about that for a while. She was in Turkey. Actually, no, she was in Egypt. We had planned a trip together. I was studying in Paris, and we had, wanted to do a good, nice trip together. And we chose Egypt and Turkey, and had just, made all of the plans, the arrangements when I wound up on the short list. And so I flew off to Toronto and left her with my aunt in Egypt, and then 10 days later returned, met up with them in Turkey, and finished the trip.
So as she was on the bus in Turkey saying, well, you what? You won?
Yeah. They actually, they didn't find out for a little while. They were actually exploring the caves in Cappadocia, and
how wonderful.
Yeah. So.
Well, again, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
a grand honor,
Yes,
as you know.
Yes.
Puts a little pressure on any writer when they win a prestigious prize, especially first off the block. You had written poetry before.
Yes.
And done a lot of writing. But they always say instant success.
Yeah, it's true. That's something that's so interesting, because I worked on The Sentimentalist for about 7 years before it was published. These stories I was working on pretty consistently throughout that same time too.
The stories in here?
Yeah, I mean, they've been written over, many years, but also through that process, 4 of the 9 of them were published previously, but even the ones that showed up in literary journals or chapbooks before, I was continuously reworking, thinking of them as being joined in this collection. So both projects were spread out over a very long period of time. But yes, you're right that then there's attention, and it's as if it happened overnight.
I know.
Yeah.
What is the thread that runs through the stories in This Will Be Difficult to Explain, or is there a thread?
I think that there is. They're very, very different, and they're over a large geographic area. There's stories that take place in Japan, in South Dakota, in Alberta,
Paris.
Nova Scotia, but Paris. In a real wide range of characters, ages, situations. But I think that all of the characters are, in one way or the other, sort of confronted by the limits of their experience and their ability to translate that experience to other people.
It's communication.
Communication.
And miscommunication.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me, reading many of the stories, it's that pivotal moment when you wonder. The one about the bombs, the Hiroshima bombs, and they named the bombs like Fat Man and Little Boy, and you think, you name destructive weapons?
Yeah.
Who came up with that?
Yeah. And there is a lot, I think, and that story is a good example of these, it's this middle-aged woman who is confronted when she visits the museum at Hiroshima with her own past and her family's, what she discovers is their culpability in that, event. And so it sort of turns around this moment of identification or of just that strange moment of trying to sort of find her place in the world. So there is like these small epiphanies, these small moments of trying to discover how to make sense of the world.
Ser, what is war all about? And in The Sentimentalist, it was Vietnam. I haven't read it, but what was it about essentially?
It's a father-daughter relationship. Primarily, the protagonist, the daughter, spends a summer with her father and a family friend, Henry, an older man, who, over the course of the summer, two stories emerge. One is Henry's experiences in his original town that's been submerged due to a hydroelectric dam that's come through, and the other is her father's stories of his experiences in the Vietnam War. So I started actually working on a story that had to do with Henry and his experiences, or his sort of being confronted by the presence of the past. Basically, he's lives on the shores of a lake that submerges his original home. And so I was working on these ideas of buried history, buried past, and my own father began to tell me stories of his experiences in Vietnam War, stories he hadn't spoken of out loud for over 30 years.
He was a Vietnam
he
soldier?
was he was a Marine. And,
U.S.?
Yeah,
Canada?
a U.S.
U.S. Marine, Vietnam?
In Vietnam, and hadn't spoken of his experiences for over 30 years, and then suddenly began to tell me about this. So instantly, I saw that these two stories were connected, and so I began to weave the fact and the fiction together.
Can your dad write? Can your mom write? Do you come from a family of writers?
I come from a family of appreciators of writers.
Readers.
Writing, yeah. And so both of my parents, and especially my mother, she made her career in literacy and family literacy. So, obviously I was read to as a child from, very, very young age. And I was always, encouraged in my own love of literature and of writing. So I think that was tremendous for me to get
essential.
that support. Yeah.
It really is, because you never forget those moments or those first books. When you were a teenager, what were you reading?
When I was a teenager,
You're
I was all
probably
over
reading
the place.
War and Peace or something.
I did tackle some of the classics.
Little Tolstoy.
Yeah. And actually, and Anna Karenina, and I loved Jane Eyre. I loved the Bronte sisters, and then I got into the Beats too when I was a teenager, and don't know how good role models they were as a 16-year-old girl.
I mean, On the Road Again type?
Yeah, On the
not
Road,
Hunter
yeah.
S. Thompson, not that.
Yeah, some of that, but Kerouac was my,
sure.
definitely.
The Electric Man, in this will be difficult to explain, the Electric Man story, the Electric Man from the Bulgarian circus, or was he?
Yeah, that's one of the earliest stories in the collection, and one of my favorites. So I was happy that, it turns on this moment again of sort of miscommunication or misidentification, where two strangers meet. The protagonist is a young woman who's working at a hotel in France.
The Beach Hotel.
Yeah, the Beach Hotel, and this American man comes to stay, and he decides to paint her portrait. And so it's a sort of idea of how do you represent yourself? How do you represent another person? So that's sort of running through the story. And then at the end, there is this moment when she realizes that the way that he has presented himself is very different from the truth.
Who he really is.
Who he really is, yeah.
I was thinking you must have worked at a beach hotel somewhere, because you got it so right about the clients and people who go to beach hotels and the regulars every summer.
Yeah, well, I haven't. I've never worked at a beach hotel. I've never waitressed. I would think I would be a terrible waitress. Yeah, but I love that because I've got that a lot, and almost all of the stories, an assumption, at some level, oh well, you must have had this experience, and not very much of the stories are drawn from my personal experience, but certainly all of them have some little spark, whether it was an anecdote that someone, someone else's experience, something that I've observed, something from a little bit of a remove from
I doubt you lived in rural South Dakota, but there is a story, the prize bull story.
Yes.
Where they lose the prize bull and it goes on and on. We won't tell the story, but you have to do research, because anybody who's had a bull or knows about bulls or bull behavior and all of that, and how expensive bulls are.
Yeah, well, that story actually was based very loosely on something that actually happened to my stepfather. So there was my research for that.
Oh, great. Yeah. It's a great story.
Thank you.
It's a great story. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What next? Are you working on a novel too?
I am, yes.
And your poetry, Late Nights with Wild Cowboys, still available. That was the first one?
Yeah.
And I do not think that I could love a human being.
Yep,
Second book of poetry?
Year. Yeah.
How great. I'm dying to read them.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Johanna Skibsrud, This Will Be Difficult to Explain, and Other Stories.